Beneath the surface of nearly every ancient culture lies a story so powerful and so devastating that it echoes across thousands of years and countless civilizations. A story of a deluge, a flood, a cataclysm that wiped away worlds and reshaped humanity itself. From the sands of Mesopotamia to the temples of India, from the mountains of Peru to the oral traditions of Native America, one tale seems to connect them all: the Great Flood. But what if these weren't just stories? Not just allegories or myths to explain the chaos of nature? What if they were memories? Ancient memories of a real event, a catastrophe so massive it burned itself into the DNA of humanity's collective story. Tonight, we dive into one of history's greatest mysteries: the truth behind the flood myths. Were they myth or ancient memory? Imagine the world long before the pyramids, long before kings and kingdoms, before history as we know it was written. Humanity lived close to nature, building settlements along fertile rivers, harnessing the abundance of the earth. And then came disaster. Torrential rains, surging seas, rivers overflowing and swallowing entire villages. To the survivors, it would not just be destruction, it would be rebirth. The world washed clean. Their descendants carried that story forward, shaping it into legends of gods angry with mankind, of chosen survivors building arks, of humanity saved by the skin of its teeth. Does that sound familiar? The most famous version is the biblical tale of Noah, a man chosen by God to save creation, commanded to build an ark, to gather the animals, and to ride out the storm that drowned the world. But Noah is not alone. Thousands of years before the Bible, the ancient Sumerians told the story of Zius-Udra, a man warned by the gods of an impending deluge who built a giant boat and survived the waters that destroyed humankind. The Babylonians called him Utnapishtim in the Epic of Gilgamesh. In India, it was Manu, guided by a divine fish, to construct a vessel before the flood came. In Greece, it was Deucalion and Pyrrha who survived Zeus's flood by seeking refuge on a floating chest. The Maya told of a flood sent to punish arrogant creations. The Hopi spoke of worlds destroyed by water before the current age of man. Even the Polynesians, scattered across vast oceans, tell stories of great floods. How could cultures separated by oceans, by mountains, by millennia, all share the same memory? Skeptics argue the explanation is simple. Floods happen everywhere. Rivers swell, storms rage, seas rise. Of course, ancient people would tell stories about devastating floods, but that answer feels too easy, doesn't it? Because these aren't just stories of local disasters. They are tales of entire worlds consumed, of humanity nearly extinguished, of survival by a chosen few. The parallels are too precise, too universal, to be dismissed as coincidence. So, what if the flood myths are pointing to something real? Modern science gives us clues. At the end of the last ice age, about 12,000 years ago, glaciers that had covered much of the northern hemisphere began to melt. Vast ice sheets collapsed into the oceans. Sea levels surged, in some places rising hundreds of feet. Imagine living along a fertile plain, watching the shoreline retreat day after day, year after year, until one day it wasn't gradual anymore. It was catastrophic. Walls of water crashing inland, swallowing everything. Could this have been the true origin of the flood legends? Some researchers believe so. Around 10,000 BCE, the world's oceans rose dramatically, drowning coastlines and forcing human migrations. Ancient cities, if they existed, would have been swallowed, leaving little behind but memory. In the Black Sea region, for instance, scientists have discovered evidence that around 7,000 years ago, rising Mediterranean waters burst through the Bosporus, flooding the Black Sea basin and displacing entire populations. To those who lived there, it must have felt like the end of the world. And yet, there are other theories. Some point to an even greater catastrophe. A cosmic impact, perhaps a comet fragment, striking the Earth and triggering sudden climate chaos, fires and floods. Evidence from North America hints at something like this, the so-called Younger Dryas impact theory, suggesting a sudden cataclysm that melted glaciers and unleashed torrents of water across continents. Imagine walls of ice collapsing, megafloods roaring through valleys, carving landscapes in days that we now believe took centuries. For those who witnessed it, survival would mean remembering. And remembering would mean telling the story again and again until it became legend. But here's the mystery. How much of these stories are memory and how much are myth? Did humanity truly survive a single great deluge that wiped away a forgotten civilization? Or are we looking at fragments of many smaller catastrophes woven together by time? Could the Great Flood be the echo of a lost chapter of human history, one we've yet to rediscover beneath the sands and seas? Before we dive even deeper into the evidence, take a moment to reflect. If you're fascinated by these hidden truths, by the possibility that myths may hide real history, then make sure you're part of this journey with us. Hit that like button, share your thoughts in the comments. What do you think? Myth, memory, or both? And subscribe to Mysteries of Time so you never miss when we explore the next forgotten secret. This is only the beginning. Now let's continue. In 1997, Robert Ballard, the same explorer who discovered the Titanic, turned his attention to the Black Sea flood theory. What he found astonished the world. Evidence of ancient shorelines now hundreds of feet below the surface, suggesting that thriving communities once lived where only fish swim today. Could these submerged settlements be the inspiration for flood legends? And if that's true, what other lost cities lie hidden beneath the oceans, drowned when the seas rose? Some researchers point to places like Doggerland, a vast plain that once connected Britain to Europe, now lost beneath the North Sea. Others whisper of sunken ruins off the coasts of India and Japan, hints of structures swallowed by water thousands of years ago. And then there are the myths themselves, filled with strange details. In Mesopotamia, the gods argue over whether to destroy humanity with a flood. In Mesoamerica, it is not just water, but darkness and monsters that accompany the deluge. In the Pacific Islands, floods are tied to creation itself. If these were just stories about rivers overflowing, why would they be woven with cosmic battles, divine warnings, and chosen survivors, unless those survivors needed a way to explain the unexplainable, to give meaning to the terror they endured? The Great Flood, then, is more than myth. It is a riddle. It's a riddle whispered by ancestors who wanted us to remember to never forget the fragility of human existence. Perhaps it was a punishment from gods. Perhaps it was a natural disaster. Perhaps it was both. But one thing is certain: it was important enough to become the backbone of human storytelling, a thread that connects us across oceans and centuries. So, was the Great Flood myth or memory? Maybe the answer lies somewhere in between. Maybe myths are how ancient people preserved their history, disguising fact as legend so the story could survive when the ruins did not. And maybe one day, when we uncover more beneath the seas, when we decode the last secrets of the Ice Age world, we will finally know the truth. Until then, the waters keep their secrets, and the story of the flood flows on. And if this mystery has stirred your curiosity, don't let it end here. On Mysteries of Time, we explore lost civilizations, hidden truths, and the secrets history forgot. If you are intrigued by the Great Flood, wait until you hear the hidden secrets of Atlantis or the lost knowledge buried within the Dead Sea Scrolls. The past is calling, and it still has stories left to tell. So, are you ready to uncover them?